When I look at my younger daughter now, sometimes I'm reminded of Hannah. Hannah would be 32 years old now if I've kept her way back in 1989. For almost 30 years, I rarely thought of her. It was always like this was the baby I aborted. It was only a few years ago I named her. Back then, my marriage was already on the rocks, and I was still diaper changing my third child. And when I heard of the news that I was pregnant again, there was no way I can keep this baby. I was raising the 3 kids almost on my own. Financially, we couldn't afford. But my husband said, keep this 4th child. But I told him, no way, I'm going to abort her. When I told my gynae about my situation, he told me, don't ever depend on another person for your happiness. Wow, I said, that was the most empowering statement I ever heard. So I made up my mind to go ahead with the abortion. Sitting in the waiting room for 2 hours, I kept reminding myself that the baby inside of me was the least of my problem, and she has to be the first one to go. Once the baby is out of the way, it would be much, much better for me. It's also better for the baby because I wouldn't have time to look after this baby. And I felt that was the only way to go. During the abortion, it was very fast, just 10 minutes, the whole procedure was over. And within that same year, I went through a divorce. And there was no time for anything else except to focus on raising my 3 children. It was really survival mode, or you can call it battle mode. And that's all that I was focusing on. I was suppressing all my emotions, and I became a very hard person. I was angry, I was judgmental, I was critical. And then what was really terrible for me was when I had cancer in 2005, 2008, and 2014. But miraculously, God healed me. However, during that process, I realized that there were cancers in my heart that God wants to deal with. And these were my emotions of rejection, abandonment, hopelessness. And I went through a couple of retreats. I met this young lady who had just gone through an abortion, and she was sharing the pain, the guilt, embarrassment that she was facing. Then I recall, I went through an abortion too, but I was wondering, how come I didn't have all these emotions? In one of my conversations with my elder sister, she revealed that I was an almost aborted baby myself. Because way back then, my parents already had 6 children, and financially they felt that they could not afford to keep me. And my mother had many sessions trying to abort me with traditional Chinese medicine, but they couldn't, so they had no choice and kept me. When I learned of that, I was very angry with my parents. I felt the rejection and of being unwanted. And then it just dawned on me. The 10-minute abortion I had, I did the same thing to my 4th child. I aborted her. She must have felt terrible, the way I did. And suddenly it hit hard on me, really hard. And I said, I actually killed my own baby. I murdered my own baby. You would think a mother is nurturing, is supposed to protect your baby. And here I was, murdering my own flesh and blood. Even though these emotions were swept under the carpet for almost 30 years, they didn't go away. They were deep in there, festering. And the pain is real. I cried myself to sleep several nights. It's like a floodgate opened wide. The emotions just started pouring. And I can no longer see her as a problem. So I named her Hannah, favored by God. So there and then, I realized that abortion is not without pain. Even though for me, the pain came almost 30 years later, but it's still painful, very painful. But I'm glad because of God's redeeming love, and I just sensed that God had forgiven me, and that was such a relief that the shame, the condemnation of the abortion just lifted off me. Hannah changed my life. She had no voice then, but I now have a voice. So my plea to pregnant mothers considering abortion, there are ramifications. Abortion is not as painless as you may think it is. The price I paid for the abortion was the pain I inflicted on my children. So there is a price to pay for abortion. What is the price you're willing to pay? It is never without a price.